address another subject, and that is the growing call for a special counsel to investigate what took place with respect to the FISA court and the FISA application. Now, as you know, we've been talking about this. It's March 7th, 2018, our second-year anniversary. Well, interestingly enough, on our first-year anniversary, give or take, on March 2nd, then I believe it was March 6th, March 5th, we pressed ahead on this FISA issue before anybody else did. And I've had additional questions since. Now, from day one, a year ago, I said, we need to see the FISA application. If I not said we need to see the FISA application, then we'll know exactly what took place. We've since learned that there were extensions. Well, we need to see the filings for the 3 extensions of the original FISA application. That'll tell us pretty much everything we need to know about what the FBI presented to the court. There's no transcript of what the FBI and the Department of Justice argued to the FISA court in any of those instances. Apparently, they don't keep one. Since then, as you know, I've called for the abolition of the FISA court. It obviously doesn't work. These federal judges who sit on the FISA court, appointed by the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States, they're either not taking their job seriously enough, or they're allowing the government to do things that they shouldn't allow the government to do. The check on these FISA applications is supposed to be these federal judges. So when a federal judge allows a warrant to be issued based almost exclusively, or at least largely, on opposition research paid by an opposing campaign of the party of the existing administration, endorsed by the existing administration, that involves gossip, uncorroborated sources, and issues a warrant against an American citizen, the argument apparently being that that American citizen may be a foreign agent for Russia. That's one of the 2-part requirements. And that he may have committed criminal acts or may likely create criminal acts. You understand there was no basis for this warrant whatsoever. And the dossier that was used in this warrant, the court was not told how it was funded. This is why the Democrats keep running to a footnote that has been revealed that still doesn't say that the Hillary campaign and the Democrat National Committee paid for it. And for months and months and months, the Hillary campaign and the Democrat National Committee was silent about the whole thing, weren't they? Didn't say anything. And one of the articles, as Chairman Nunes points out, that was used in the application to persuade the judge to give the government the warrant was in Yahoo, written by Michael Isikoff. And that article was a leak by Christopher Steele involving his dossier. So it looked like an independent source of information to the judge, when in fact it was the same exact guy using the same exact dossier, dressed it up as a newspaper article. Now, I take this one step further, and I'm hoping that more and more of the hosts on cable TV and otherwise do, and they're starting to pick it up. The reason the FISA court should be abolished isn't primarily because of what the FBI did. In my view, it created contemptuous acts for which people should go to prison by withholding material information, by omitting material facts in an application for a warrant. But the federal judges in these cases, I can't emphasize this enough. The first federal judge who issued the warrant was aware in April of last year. She was aware what had been done to the court. She was aware that the dossier was funded by the opposition party. She was aware of all these things in April. So about 6 months after she signed off on this warrant, issued this warrant, she became familiar with the facts. Not all the facts, but enough of the facts that should have caused her great alarm, grievous concern that the court was abused. I don't say the judge, I say the court. And as I pointed out on Hannity the other week, this judge has the power to reach all the way back 6 months, a year, 2 years. If she learns that what was presented to her in her courtroom to persuade her to issue a warrant, which is a big deal, a warrant to spy on an American citizen, under the pretext, according to the government, that that American citizen was a foreign agent for Russia and was likely to commit a crime. And the irony is, 3 years before, he was an informant for the FBI against the Russians. You can see how preposterous this is. And in that dossier, they claim he had these high-level meetings with Putin loyalists. He said he never had any meetings like this whatsoever. They never even asked him when they went in for the warrant. They didn't care. They wanted to spy on the Trump campaign. And they used this guy, Carter Page, as an excuse. I'm telling you, that's what happened. That's what happened. With all the political activists dressed up as senior FBI officials over at the Federal Bureau of Investigation. But back to these judges. These judges exist at the behest of the United States Congress. You know, there's nothing in the Constitution about federal district courts. There's nothing in the Constitution about appellate courts. We call them circuit courts. There's nothing in the Constitution, obviously, about a FISA court. The fact that we have these different courts, federal district courts, these different jurisdictions, these different circuits, those are all created by statute. We had the early judiciary acts that created various courts and so forth. So Congress has not only a legitimate purpose, but a constitutional duty to find out what took place in this creation of theirs, this FISA court that's been around since around 1979. And I imagine this FISA court's done a lot of good, but that's not good enough. When in the teeth of a general election, a federal judge sitting as a FISA judge authorizes a warrant based on uncorroborated opposition research. And whether she knew it or not, she still has the capacity to demand an investigation. She has the capacity to look into it herself and call a hearing. And she has the ability to hold people in contempt, criminal contempt, and eventually, ultimately, put them in jail. She's done none of these things. Despite the fact that in April of last year, Landmark Legal Foundation, of which I'm now chairman, no longer president, because I can't do everything every day, filed a petition, if you will, a paper with this judge laying out the case and asking her if she's going to do anything about it, like conduct an investigation. And her reply was, within days, this matter is no longer before the court. That is utterly dishonest, because the matter was still before the court, because now we know there was the initial FISA application, and the warrant was renewed for 90 days, renewed for another 90 days, and renewed for another 90 days after that. In other words, it went on for about a year, covering the period in which we filed our paper with the judge. And I've also been pointing out on radio, TV here, Levin TV, this guy Carter Page. He was surveilled. You have to assume they were looking at his texts, his emails, his cell calls, his hardline calls, because they had a warrant, a counterintelligence warrant that this man was a threat to the United States and that he was acting on behalf of Russia. Has he been charged with anything? After a year of investigation? Not to my knowledge. Has he been brought to court anywhere? Has he been arraigned somewhere? Not to my knowledge. Apparently he's an innocent man, despite all the investigations going on. We have a special counsel, a rogue special counsel, roaming the planet looking for nonsense. We have in-house United States attorneys within the United States in the different districts. We have the Public Integrity Section of the Criminal Division of Maine Justice Department. All of them could be looking at Mr. Page or want to bring charges against Mr. Page. To my knowledge, nobody's recommended charging Mr. Page with anything. And isn't that the bottom line? Isn't that the proof in the pudding, if you will? That Mr. Page was set up in front of this judge as the straw man in order to spy on the Trump campaign. And that's exactly what took place. Anyway, Mr. Gowdy and Mr. Goodlatte, they're not considered bomb throwers exactly. Gowdy, the chairman of the House Oversight Committee, and Goodlatte, the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, are both demanding a special counsel for the purpose of investigating these FISA abuses. And I want to welcome them, because this should have been done a long, long time ago. People's memories go, information is destroyed. The Attorney General of the United States, Jeff Sessions, for reasons I do not understand, will not pull this trigger. He hasn't so far. You might say, well, he's recused himself from Russia. This has nothing to do with Russia. Russia's a bit part of this. This has to do with how a federal court, a secret federal court in this country, conducted itself and was abused. The conduct of the FBI and the Justice Department are key elements to this. And it is not possible for the Justice Department in this instance to investigate itself. You know, the Inspector General, you know, they have very limited jurisdiction. They can't really force people who've left the Justice Department, who've left the FBI, to testify. So, for instance, Mr. McCabe, they have no control over him. Mr. Comey, they have no control over him. So it'll be very, very difficult to get the kind of result that's necessary in this case. Anyway, I'm going to let you hear from Gowdy and Goodlatte yourselves. Go.
You write there's evidence of bias trending toward animus in your letter among those charged with investigating serious cases. There's evidence political opposition research was used in court filings. There's evidence this political opposition research was neither vetted before it was used nor fully revealed to relevant tribunal. Chairman Gowdy's letter states matters have arisen. What's changed?
What changed for me was the knowledge that there are 24 witnesses that Michael Horowitz, the Inspector General, would not have access to. So your options are DOJ investigated themselves. They can't do that because of conflict of interest. Let the Inspector General do it. Now, I'm a big fan of Mike Horowitz, but he has no jurisdiction over witnesses that have either left the department or never worked there. So when I counted up 24 witnesses that he would not be able to access were he to investigate it, yeah, only one conclusion, that's special counsel.
Who's on that list?
Everybody from Jim Comey to Andy McCabe to Rivicki, Sidney Blumenthal, Cody Shearer, anyone who no longer works for the Department of Justice or the FBI. State Department, you may recall a couple of weeks ago there was some indication that State Department employees were feeding information to Fusion GPS. They would be outside the reach of the Inspector General. So anyone who's not currently an employee of DOJ,
stop. And Fusion GPS would be outside the reach of the Inspector General, too. Go ahead.
Michael Horowitz doesn't have subpoena power to
There was a report that McCabe was a leaker for the Hillary Clinton matter. Is that true?
I don't know, and Horowitz will be issuing that report, and I have a lot of confidence in him, Ben. I think, Bill, he's a straight shooter, and we'll see.
To Chairman Goodlatte, you said earlier today about the FISA court, specifically the process was abused. How?
Well, it was abused by a gathering of information from a very suspect source, not disclosing that information to the court, and in my opinion, getting authority to look into the background of an American citizen's life.
Let me just explain why in this instance, because I don't think they're going to say it's more important than even in a regular federal court. Because in a regular federal court, when something is presented, there's another side that can challenge it. They can question it. In a secret court like this, there's no such thing. So when the one side, the government, the FBI, the Department of Justice, present the information to the judge, that's to be kept in mind. They're there to present all the information because there's nobody there to challenge the information. There's nobody there to say, wait a minute, Judge, did they tell you who funded that? I mean, wait a minute, Judge, did they tell you the Hillary Clinton campaign and the DNC were involved in that? They didn't tell the judge that. There's nobody there to tell the judge that. Go ahead.
On questionable circumstances, and that is a very serious concern. You know, the FBI is America's premier law enforcement organization. Every day, thousands and thousands of great men and women keep us safe, investigate crime, prevent terrorist attacks. But several people at the top of this organization have engaged in activities that are questionable. And I think that in order to set the record straight, clear what is going on at the FBI, and make sure this does not happen again, we need to have an outside special counsel.
Do you have evidence the Department of Justice was spying on the Trump team during the election?
That depends on whether or not you consider Carter Page to be part of the Trump team. He was an advisor to the extent that
That's
he
a great question. I'm glad I asked Mr. Nunes that, coming out of the box on Fox Sunday. Go ahead.
was an advisor. Absolutely, this whole FISA warrant was on Carter Page, and necessarily you would also pick up conversations that Carter Page was having with others. So the answer to that question de facto is yes when you approve the warrant against Carter Page.
It's amazing how routinely now people who are objective about this, Republican or otherwise, saying that yes, the administration spied on the Trump campaign. I can remember saying that. The administration spied on the Trump campaign. And I can remember all the pushback, even by Republicans, by the way. But now you have Gowdy saying it, you have Goodlatte saying it, Nunes has been saying it, and the fact of the matter, it's true. That's why you need a special counsel, not an inspector general. You got Mueller as a special counsel. There was absolutely no criminal basis for his appointment. You can see he's completely out of control right now. Here, it's an overwhelming basis for the appointment of a special counsel. And I'm not big on special counsel either, but if you're going to have them, this is the perfect case for it. Let's hope it gets done. Let's hope Jeff Sessions steps up to the plate. That's it.